So here we are. This is week 2, Tri-C Web Publishing 1, Spring 2012. So where we left off last week is we had a very simple web page. Now we're going to follow along in the textbook, and we're going to develop that web page into a small website. So we're going to use some of the same information, but we're going to start this week almost fresh and do some things that we didn't do last week. So we're going to just build on that, but we're basically going to start with a blank slate in some ways. Now, before we do it, let me show you something that I think is going to make your life quite a bit easier. So right now we're looking at that web page from last week as it appears in TextEdit. Looks fine, nothing wrong with it, but there's one difficulty that you may have already noticed, which is because the code, like this tag and this tag, is the same color as the text, it sometimes is a little bit hard to keep track of what's code and what's text. So wouldn't it be great if we could have each of those in a different color? That would make it a lot easier. Well, fortunately we can. So on the Mac side, there's a free software, free text editor software that you can download, and it's called TextWrangler. On the PC side, there's something very similar called Notepad++. So I'm going to move this and show you the exact same file as it appears on the Mac in TextWrangler. You'll notice that the tags are blue, and then if there's a tag that has an attribute and a value, so here the attribute is lang or language, and the value is en for English, that appears in this reddish color. Well, the tag, let me get this straight. The name of the attribute, lang, is in sort of a dark magenta, and the attribute itself is in a brown. So it's kind of hard to tell the difference, but they're actually two different colors. The text, any text, which is what we're going to see on the website, is in black. So this is going to make your coding quite a bit easier. To get that software, go over to Blackboard. I clicked here on Web Links. In the Web Links section, you notice right at the top, here is a link to TextWrangler, and you can just click on that and download it. PC users, you can go down here, click on this link, and download Notepad++. So, I would suggest right now you stop, take a couple minutes. This should probably take you no longer than 5 minutes. Download that, install it, and open it up, and then you'll be able to follow along, and everything is going to look just like you're seeing here. So in other words, the tags will be colored. So I'm going to pause this recording for a minute. Hopefully you can get that download done and installed. If not, you can continue on with either TextEdit or Notepad. They'll work just fine. You just won't have the color to help guide you. Throughout this tutorial, I'm probably going to be pausing and restarting quite a bit because I'm going to try to follow along section by section in the textbook. Now, before we actually go on into the new material for this week, a piece that you may not have noticed because I didn't actually require it as part of the assignment. Well, there's two things that I didn't mention that I'm going to just talk about now because I'd like you to include this in the future. One thing is comments. Now, maybe you already paid attention to that, or maybe you already are aware of it, but sometimes you want to put something in your website and you don't want it to actually appear in the browser. So in this case, I want you from here on out to actually put a comment in that tells me which assignment it is and who you are, so that when I look at the code I know exactly who it is. So the way you do a comment in HTML is you do the opening bracket, the less than symbol, exclamation mark, hyphen, hyphen, and then you type whatever you want to type. So in this case, name and the date of the assignment. Wasco week, in this case, this is from last week, week 1, web publishing. It's good if you can spell 1. spring 2012. And then to end the comment, 2 hyphens and the closing bracket, the greater than bracket. So anything you put within these 2 opening and closing tags is a comment. That means you can read it, but the browser ignores it. So if I save this, and then I'm going to open it up, so I'm going to click this little arrow, which gives me a slide out list of what I have going here, and this is the file I want to work with. I'm going to drag it to the browser icon in the dock and take a look at it. And once that opens up, here we go. You'll notice that what I typed in, week 1, web publishing 1, assignment 1, so on and so forth, doesn't appear anywhere here, okay, because it's a comment. Now, if you're really paying attention, you're going to say to me, well, of course it doesn't appear because you put your comment, and I'm going to space it out a little bit. You put your comment before the body. So we know that the only thing that we see in the browser is what's between those body tags. So if you notice that, you're doing good because that's exactly the question. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it down here so it's definitely inside the body. I'm going to put it right there before my H1 tag. And so since it's inside the body, if the comment is not working, the comment tags, then we should see Al Wasco week 1, web publishing 1, spring 2012. So let me save that, go back over here, refresh it, and as you can see, it's not there. And now just to prove it to you, let me get rid of these comment tags and you'll see. Save it again, and this time without those tags, there's what I just typed in. Okay, so commenting, very important. So for now, on every assignment, please include a comment that has your name and the week of the assignment, and Web Publishing 1 Spring 2012 would be good as well, just so I can keep these straight. And this is going to be much more useful as we get a little bit further into things this week, this idea of commenting things. The other thing that we didn't do last week, or at least you may have done it if you were paying attention, but I didn't include it as part of the required assignment, so maybe you didn't. There's a tag that we can use to emphasize. The tag, not surprisingly, is EM. And the way you would use it if you want a word to have particular emphasis, like I'm doing this because I really like web publishing, or I really like web publishing. So if you wanted to emphasize it in that way, I really like web publishing, do the open and close M tags. Let me save that, go back over here, and our comment disappeared because I had put those comment tags back. And you notice I really like web publishing. And I could even do this. And I like teaching it. Oops. Oh, by the way, did you notice when I typed something that wasn't really appropriate? Okay, a question mark can't be in a tag. TextWrangler is really helping me out by making all of this pink. It's saying, whoa, wait a minute. That's definitely screwed up. Okay, so if everything goes pink, you know you have a problem. Close EM. All right, let me save that. Let's look at it again. And, all right, I really like web publishing and I like teaching it. So that's emphasis. And the other thing is there's a similar tag is called strong. And that one, for whatever reason, is S-T-R-O-N-G, strong. Why they spell that one out, not sure. But here, if you do that, now you can see that strong is actually, it looks bold. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we'll talk about this more, but there's a reason why we don't just use the B tag for bold like we used to, or the I tag for italic like we used to here. Now if you want it to be emphasized, which usually looks like italics, you just use the EM tag and use a strong tag to do this, which is bold. But these tags actually have a meaning as opposed to simply describing the appearance. So strong is what we want it to do, somehow make it look stronger. and we're not really going to say specifically that it needs to be bold, although that's generally what the browser does. Okay, so what have we done? We've added to our assignment from last week a comment, the M tag to emphasize things, and the strong tag to make them stronger. Last thing I'm going to say about this particular thing is in terms of readability and good typographic practice, you would only use M or strong for relatively small amounts of copy. In other words, a word or 2 words or maybe a sentence at the most. But both emphasized text and strong text tends to be harder to read when you get it like a whole paragraph or several lines of it. And plus, if everything is emphasized, then really nothing is emphasized. All right, so when you use M or strong, use them very sparingly to emphasize a word or 2 words or a phrase. All right, so we are going to now move on to, we're starting near the middle of page 42 on the textbook called Diving into Our Website. There's some goals listed there, and that's very important. When you're starting a website, one of the first things you have to do is think about the goals. What are you trying to do with it? So we'll talk about that perhaps a little bit in class, but right now we're going to get back to the code. And the first thing we're going to do, just to start off the new assignment, is take this existing page you have and delete all the text between the body tags. You can leave the comment in here. I'm going to change that to week 2, so please change that every week so when I look at your assignment I know which one I'm looking at. Took the tag out because we're going to put a new tag in there. And now we have just the bare bones of an HTML document. And I'm going to do a little bit of spacing here just to separate things. So we have the doc type, we have the initial HTML tag, which is closed down here. We're using the attribute lang, telling the browser that this is going to be in English. The head, the title, this meta tag, which tells the browser that we're using the UTF-8 character set, which is worldwide the best one to use. And then in the body with our comment. And just to make things a little bit neater, I think I'm going to pull this out and put it in there. It could stay where it was, as you saw. There was no problem with it, but I just think it's a little bit cleaner to put it in there like that. Now, let's do this. We're going to save this, and we're going to save it as, rather than Wasco Week 1 HTML, we're going to save it as index.html. Now, why are we doing that? Well, here's the thing. Every website has a home page. The home page is always named index.html. So starting this week, we're building a small website, and so this first page that we create is going to be the home page, and so we're going to name it index.html and put this in your folder. I would suggest you probably at this point want to have a week by week folder. So as I have right here, I have a week 2 folder. Let's put it into the week 2 folder. And I would suggest you have week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. Let me see, unsafe changes. So let me, I'm not sure what this is doing. Document has unsafe changes. Do you want to keep your changes or reload the document? I want to keep my changes. In other words, save the document. I don't know why it didn't just say, do you want to save the document? But it didn't. At any rate, so here we are. We're good to go, and we're now starting, we're on page 43, and we're going to do a title, and let's see, after we're going to do a title, we're going to do some headings, and then we're going to start putting some copy in. So this, I think, is a good stopping point for this particular tutorial. It's about 15 minutes now. So I'm going to stop here, and then we'll pick up in the next tutorial working our way through building this new home page for our website.